Good morning, Commissioners. This is Patrick McKay from Colorado Off-Road Enterprise and Colorado Off-Road Trail Defenders. I was just coming to once again bring up the issue of the 4x4 roads in the Gulches. I was very pleased to see that this became one of the issues that was discussed in the debate on Tuesday between Commissioner Elsner and his challenger Richie Frangiosa. And just kind of once again like to note that if this has become a big enough issue that it's actually become a campaign issue in the commissioner race, it would be really nice to have a working session that would allow us to discuss this in more detail than just the brief public comments at these commission meetings. But given that the commission will not allow that, I did just want to address a few of the statements that were made by Commissioner Elsner during that debate, because there were a number of just outright falsehoods said there. And while the commissioners may be entitled to their own opinion on this issue, they are not entitled to alternate facts. And just listening to Commissioner Elsner's words about that, it's clear that he has never been down to the Gulches and has probably never even looked at a map of it, because he made some basic errors of the geography of the area. For example, he said that the Gulches trails don't come into Park County, and they just dip into Park County and turn around and go back to Teller County. And so therefore they don't actually bring anyone into Park County and would have no benefit to Park County. Well, that may be true of the way the situation is right now with the Park County roads being closed, but one of the roads that we would like to see reopened is Forest Road 540, Corral Creek, which actually crosses the South Platte River and then heads back up the west side of Wildcat Canyon to Madacat Road, Forest Road 211. And if that road were reopened, it would actually connect all of the Gulches roads in Teller County, along with Cedar Mountain Road up at the top of the canyon, over to Madacat Road in Park County. And so someone could drive all the way across the canyon, and then once they're on Madacat Road, they could either drive south to Tarryall or north past Burlington Lake up to Bailey. And having that road reopen would actually make it much more likely that someone, after driving the roads in the Gulches, would go into one of the towns in Park County and spend money there. So the main reason that there's no benefit to Park County now is because those roads are closed. But if they were open, it would be. Commissioner Elsner also stated that you have to drive up the Tarryall River for those roads. And that is not true. The Road 540 briefly crosses the Tarryall River, but it is simply a perpendicular river crossing like most other river crossings in Colorado. It's a rocky riverbed there. There's no sediment issues or anything like that. There is no risk of damage to the Tarryall River from that river crossing. Elsner also stated that the Gulches are pristine and great for backpacking. As far as pristine, a lot of that area is actually still heavily damaged by the Hayman fire. It couldn't really be described as pristine. Parts of it are untouched, but other parts are still recovering from the fire. And the erosion from the fire and such is what is causing a lot of the issues that people keep attributing to off-road vehicles. He said it was good for backpacking. Really, it is not. There's only one hiking trail that goes into the canyon, and that is hardly ever used. The predominant use in the area is motorized recreation. And as far as backpacking, it happens to be literally next door to the Lost Creek Wilderness, which is a much better place for backpacking. It has over 130 miles of dedicated hiking trails. It's a gorgeous place for backpacking. I've gone on a couple of backpacking trips in there myself. So really anyone who wants to go backpacking in that area goes to the Lost Creek Wilderness, not Wildcat Canyon. Then it was also clear that Mr. Elsner really does not know much about the off-road community in Colorado. He insists that we're just destroying stuff and not maintaining things. And he brought up the example of the Holy Cross City Trail near Leadville, which he said was maintained by the 4x4 community for 4 to 5 years. And then they lost interest in it and it was destroyed. That could not be farther from the truth. The Holy Cross Jeep Trail is actually one of the most popular Jeep trails in Colorado. and it is also one of the best maintained Jeep trails in Colorado. It is currently adopted by the Bighorn Jeep Club, and they and other Jeep clubs they work with do multiple maintenance projects on it every year, including installing winch anchors, fencing off areas where people might have gone off trail to circumvent an obstacle, things like that. There are a couple similar Jeep trails in Park County that are also similarly adopted by Jeep clubs. The Mile High Jeep Club has adopted both the Wheeler Lake Jeep Trail near Fairplay and Alma, as well as the Red Cone Jeep Trail near Bailey, which are also very popular, difficult Jeep trails that have a lot of maintenance done on them by the 4x4 community, and they keep any resource issues there to an absolute minimum and avoid it through maintenance. So when trails are allowed to be maintained by Jeep clubs, it avoids any resource damage issues that arise because they can quickly take care of it. Now, Commissioner Elser also was very concerned about the cost of if some of these trails were reopened. He said that to open the roads, the county would have to take them back, and it costs money. It's interesting that the commission has so much concern about spending money to reopen these trails, but they apparently have no objection to spending county money to close them, given that Wild Connections, the big environmental group that's trying to close these roads, recently obtained a $35,000 grant from the Park County Land and Water Trust Fund in order to do the first stage of closing the roads by removing all the fencing and signage down there that is actually currently helping keep people on the roads if people do accidentally use them illegally. So if the county is willing to spend money to close them, but not to open them, and it's kind of counterproductive as well, because if the Forest Service did make the decision to reopen these roads, you just have to put all that signage and fencing back in. So it seemed very disingenuous there.
Excuse me. You've had enough time. I want to start answering some of these things, and then I'll give you some more time, because one, you totally misinterpreted what was said. The last item, as far as the county is spending money to clean up the area, to take down signage and all of that, that's the Land and Water Trust Fund money, which can be used for that purpose. The Land and Water Trust Fund money, I do not believe, can be used for roads.
It can be used for recreation.
To preserve water and preserve the area. So it's a different fund that cannot be used for what you're talking about. To reopen the roads, where we could say, well, maybe we will reopen the roads. If we would say that, the issue isn't just, oh, gee, do we have to maintain the roads? The second someone rolls a Jeep or does damage to something or gets hurt down there, our resources are required to respond. We do not get paid for that. That's why I'm concerned about the cost. As far as have never been in that area, and it's not a good area to backpack, that's totally wrong. I have backpacked down there. I have started in Jefferson County, which is one heck of a long downhill to the Platte, and then gone over to the Terrial and walked up the Terrial. The side that is in Teller County has got roads, is messed up. The side that was in Park County was a heck of a lot prettier. Pristine, yes, it's not pristine because we had a huge forest fire. One of the ways forests have to recover is limited use. That's why the Forest Service closed it. If we ever want that area to come back to the way it was before, we need to keep it closed until it has fully recovered. Holy Cross Trail, the area that I went to that was supposedly managed, and I don't know how long you've been doing this in four-wheel driving and going to these, but this was an area that I went to, and I'm saying it's probably 46 years. It was 44 years ago that we went up there in four-wheel drive, and it was maintained. And then when I went back, it wasn't maintained. That's why the Forest Service took it over and made it part of the wilderness area, because people were not maintaining and they were destroying it. As far as the idea of people coming into Park County and and giving us a lot of benefit from that, I really don't see that, because you say, oh, gee, they can go to Wellington Lake. Once they're in Wellington Lake, most people don't go to Bailey because that's a longer way to get down to Denver. They'll go down through Buffalo Creek and Pine Junction, none of which is in Park County. I don't see any benefit from people going that way. Also, other people, when they come in, Most likely, they are not going to stop at any place in Lake George because there aren't a lot of businesses there that they can spend their money at. So we won't get any benefit from them. What I see in this, and I've had emails from residents saying there is no upside to our county to opening up these roads. The Forest Service has said these are roads we don't want to open up because the area has not recovered and we don't want to see the continued damage. Okay, now you can go ahead a little longer. We do have another meeting we have to get to, but I'll let you talk a little longer, and then I want to let Mike throw in his comments.
Okay. Well, thank you, Commissioner. And as far as the issue of like if someone rolls down there or something like that, was actually the next point I wanted to address, because you also mentioned that at the debate. And first likes to note that the issue of search and rescue is not unique to motorized recreation. Any public lands within Park County that anyone hikes into or anything can potentially require search and rescue resources. However, motorized recreation is actually a lot less likely to need county resources because there's a group called Colorado 4x4 Rescue and Recovery that already handles any needed vehicle recoveries on most trails throughout Colorado, and specifically in the Gulches. They usually end up doing a few recoveries down there every year. Anytime a vehicle is disabled or hydrolocks in the river or something, they pull it out within a few days, and the county never needs to be involved in that at all. And so Teller County has not had to really expend any of their emergency services resources responding to issues down there. The 4x4 community takes care of our own. So there's that issue.
If someone is hurt, it's going to be the Lake George Fire Department that has to respond. That is a county resource.
Yeah. If someone is hurt, yes, I grant that, but that is a very rare occurrence, and it would be the same if a hiker was hurt. So that is not unique to motorized users. So finally, just would like to address the issue where you said that the off-road groups have no plan, that no one from Park County has emailed you in support of this. Actually, Park County residents have emailed you in support of this. We've been copied on a number of those emails, and a board member of Colorado Off-Road Enterprise is a Park County resident, and I believe he has contacted you about this as well. So if you've not seen emails from Park County residents,
could you send me the list of people that are Park County residents that are in favor of this, and I will take a look and I will respond to each one of them.
Okay.
But
yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Guess, we get a lot of them, and when I look at the address on the emails, because they sign their name and they'll put their address where they live, just about everybody, well, I think everybody that has given me an address, it's been an address that is not in Park County. Mike, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think this email barrage and group's interest is directed in the wrong way. This is Forest Service land. This is our public lands, and the Forest Service and the Bureau of Land Management, really have one really strong directive, and that is to protect the lands that they manage. When you talk to the BLM, and they'll tell you that the number one thing is to maintain and protect the lands that they're in charge. We're not the experts in managing and protecting public lands. They are, and we work together. We have great relationships, and that hasn't always been the case over the history between the county and the Forest Service and the county and the BLM. But in the last, I'll say, decade probably, we've managed to work on multiple projects together, and we both have a directive in protecting and maintaining what we have. So this is my district, as a commissioner. I am not getting calls from my constituents, let alone my district, but the entire county. I'm not getting big pressure, any pressure really. Very minimal, if anything. I think I've seen one, maybe two people from the area that are my constituents saying that this is an issue. As the chair mentioned, it's all outside influence. But really what it comes down to is I'm going to take the expert's advice, which in fact is the Forest Service in this case. They have way more staff than biologists and environmentalists to draw expertise from, to give direction on what should be done in what particular areas. You know, this is a fire scar. They're very well versed in how to recover fire scars and river quality, the water quality. So they're advising us and have been, and I don't see any forward change of direction to go forward with exactly the process we're going through. So it would be very difficult, at least for this commissioner, to go up against the Forest Service and all their vast resources of expertise and say, no, this commissioner feels that I know more than all of your staff and all of your resources. So I think you're going about it wrong. I mean, I think really if you want to contact the people that actually control this area, and yes, could we open up a road, you know, one of our roads and make this happen? Yes, but that's not what the Forest Service is recommending. They're recommending exactly what we're doing, and it would be irresponsible of me to say that I have more expertise than the Forest Service and cave to pressures on people that are not my constituents for personal benefits. And I mean, I'm just deleting the emails. I don't know what to tell you guys. You know, I used to read them, and I used to respond to them, and that's just the same thing over and over and over. So hit the Forest Service up. You know, try to convince them. Show them this big plan that, you know, that you argue that 4x4 groups, you know, can solve these problems. But I'll give you a little bit of advice. So the numbers, I think, in private groups, you know, hobby type groups, they don't understand what the reality of the actual cost of infrastructure is, maintenance, all this thing. So when you bring numbers forward like, oh, we have a whole bunch of money, we have 20 grand. 20 grand is not even the start of the paperwork process for this. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars that are required to complete projects in the public sector like this. So, I'm not going to sway on this one, and I really think you're petitioning the wrong board. I think you should be trying to work with the Forest Service and trying to convince them that all their experts, all the expertise they've applied to this subject matter is wrong. That's all I got.
Great.
May I briefly respond to that?
Not yet. Ray's going to give his. I'll just say this because you know so much has been said already, but I do believe that Corps would not be the responsible party for going in there and tearing things up. But you're not in there patrolling it 24/7 and keeping the bad people from doing stuff that would tear it up. You just can't you can't make that promise that even though you basically adopt that road, that nothing is going to happen in there, and it's just not the place to go tear up. And I agree with what Commissioner Brazell said that that you need to be hitting up the Forest Service as it's their property to get these roads opened up if that's what you would like to see. The unfortunate part about it is that Park County would be responsible for the roads in there, and we cannot maintain the roads that we have right now. And I am in no way, shape, or form in favor of taking on more roads as a county responsibility. Okay, Patrick, now.
Okay. Yeah. Well, just to conclude, I would like to address that point about the Forest Service's expertise, because it's interesting that back in 2004, the Forest Service did an entire environmental analysis about that area, and they concluded that the best management option would be to offer the counties an easement on those roads, let them agree to maintain them, but then the whole plan was for the counties to then turn around and have maintenance agreements with 4x4 clubs who would actually do the maintenance and be responsible for the cost of it. And that process has worked very well in the roads in Teller County. There is not significant damage there at all. People are staying on the trails, practicing proper trail etiquette, all the things, and any resource issues that do come up are quickly dealt with by fencing and stuff like that. So the Forest Service concluded that the counties, this kind of joint management between them, counties, and 4x4 clubs would be the most effective way to manage the area. And it was only because Park County pulled out of that agreement at the last second back in 2015 that we are where we are today. So that offer still stands, and we believe that that would still be an effective solution today. But obviously the current commission is not amenable to that, and now that this issue has come up as a campaign issue in the election, we hope that maybe things might change after the election and that we might be able to deal with a friendlier commission on this issue going forward in the future. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, I would just like to say 2015, Mike was the only member that is still on the board that said we don't want to take it. The other two members both said we don't want to take it. It was unanimous at that time that Park County isn't interested in having this right away, but we don't believe it's something that the county wants to take on as far as our resources. So you had two previous commissioners and the three current commissioners. So out of over the last 8 years, 5 commissioners have said, no, we don't want to do this. And I think the 5 commissioners are a lot more in tune with the people of Park County than four-wheel drive clubs out of Denver.
Just to note, that 2015 decision was solely based on, not solely, was largely based on the advice of the Forest Service. Largely. If the Forest Service said, we need to get these things open, and we likely would have considered a different decision. But the 2015 decision was a partnership decision from the Forest Service and Park County, and it wasn't heavily debated. The Forest Service made suggestions. We agreed with them, and so it's not. I think you're mistaking this as a Park County decision, where we're looking, again, it's the experts in the forest. Talk to those guys. They think it's ready for that. I would suggest that if the Forest Service came into a board of county commissioners with a really strong argument for whatever they want to do, that the county commissioners would take it seriously and likely consider. But that has not been the case. And 2004 was 16 years ago. There's a lot of new information and a lot of damage and destruction has had occurred between 2004 and 2020. I've personally seen it numerous times down in there. I've walked it and driven it. I'm a 4x4 guy, and you should take that as note. So is Ray. I think so is Dick, or had some 4x4 stuff. We're both 4x4 people. We're not against the 4x4 community, but I am completely against destroying public lands in a space that is nearly impossible to enforce. And it a lot of it all comes back to the water quality down there. Hydrolocking a vehicle into a river and having all the oils from the diff, the tranny, the transfer case, the engine block, drift down into the pristine waters of the Terrial Creek is not acceptable. I know you guys don't care about the fishing or sediment. Oh my God, driving through river bottoms gets all kinds of sediment up, which we're trying to fight from those fires. So I'm going to talk to the Forest Service, convince them, and then maybe with a representation from the Forest Service coming in recommending that they open these because they believe it could be managed correctly. It is a much, much stronger argument to get a county to even consider changing, adopting more roads, which Ray mentioned. We put a freeze on adopting roads, I think, in 2010, before my era. And, to adopt roads that you can't even drive. I mean, it's difficult to enforce, let alone get maintenance equipment up there and all that is a almost impossible task to put those type of roads on, in my opinion, on our books that, as mentioned prior, we struggle with trying to maintain 1,700 miles of nearly all dirt roads with a $5 million budget. To add more to that is, I think, irresponsible to the constituents of Park County to say that, yeah, we're going to dump road and bridge money onto roads that none of you constituents actually drive on. Good luck. Forest Service, go bang on their doors.
Yeah, and I want to add something that I just remembered when we talked to the coroner now. You know, because the coroner works for, well, he's an EMT with South Park Ambulance. So anytime I say, well, the coroner makes a lot of calls, it's not because he's looking for dead people. It's because he works as emergency services. And he said that over the summer months, which is when this would be used, that the number of calls that South Park Ambulance gets goes up tremendously. And he said those calls can be traced directly to people with four-wheel drive vehicles that don't do something right, or ATVs that roll them, and all of that. And that's part of the reason I worry about Lake George having to do all of the work, because they are not part of the South Park Ambulance District, which covers several fire districts, but not that area. And they would be the ones that would be strapped when people get hurt. Yes, people get hurt backpacking, but typically injuries aren't quite as bad. It's a sprained ankle or something along that line. I think, again, if you want them open, convince the Forest Service. Those are Forest Service roads. The Forest Service can open the roads, and then this Forest Service has to maintain the roads. I don't want the county to take the roads, because you say, well, you guys can maintain it. Well, when you get down to it, if something goes terribly bad and the county hasn't been maintaining it because you guys say you will, it's the county that people will come after, and where we would probably win a lawsuit, I don't want to have us have to expend the money. It's just not a wise decision for the county to take this on. Okay, any other public comments?